let's try this again. Let's try this again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now it looks like we're back online. Sorry about that, the internet dropped out here. Virgin just got slower and slower and slower until it decided it wasn't going to stream at all anymore. And then YouTube decided that the stream is over, and that was that. So I'm just going to wait a little while to see if anybody rejoins, or if we're actually live, or anything, because at the moment I don't know. Okay. So, okay. I can see ETA is saying I am live, so that is good. I'd better reshare the link on Twitter, because I think the link's probably changed now. Right, sorry about this, just preparing and sharing and getting everything back as it should. Right, okay, sorry about this. Right, okay. Yeah, we'll see who's who pay my ISP. My ISP take far too much of my money already. Yeah, it's annoying. It's Virgin. I mean, they're probably the only suitable ISP for doing it in the first place, and sometimes they just go bleh and drop out. So you probably got until the last level of Red Earth, and then I continued playing it because according to OBS it was streaming again fine. Then I went to check YouTube, it's like your stream has ended. It's like, well, thank you YouTube. What if MAME started emulating electronic appliances? Does MAME not already emulate some electronic appliances? Anyway, this is Sega's Last Survivor. An innovative game for 1989, and definitely one that is a bit different. It's one that allowed 4 units to be linked up together, so you can have 8 players. Does MAME emulate a microwave? I don't think any microwaves are dumped. There are definitely a few odd things are dumped. There is a ROM dump for a bomb disposal robot in a skeleton driver in MAME. Which is still a skeleton driver, so technically MAME doesn't emulate it, but if somebody wanted to emulate the bomb disposal robot, at least run the code for it, they could. Anyway, so what is this? Well, for a starter, it's quite quiet, so let's go volume up. Now, this is, well, a third-person split-screen arena battle game. Yeah, my internet probably costs 10-20 times that and is unreliable as you could imagine, but you know, that's what you get for living in the UK. So you've got your dial and you've got your up, down, left, right, and you've got your button. Now this used a rotary style joystick on the original cabinet, or a pair of them, because it's forced 2-player split screen style. Player 1 is on the right, not the left, which is a bit confusing. And yeah, this could have potentially gone the way of Spy Hunter 2 because it's for split screen, and arcade users tended not to like for split screen because I've got a big arcade screen. Why? Well, I've got to share it. There you go, it's showing the rotary stick. You've never seen this MAME fan? Well, in it you blast away at things to get gold. You've got to get keys to get to the exit, and you've got 7 other players in the maze, and they'll be carrying some of the keys. It will show on there who's got what. Now, because it's rotary stick, it doesn't quite map to the mouse properly. You sort of rotate in steps. But if I go into the corner and go into the map, I can see I'm in that corner. The exit's over there. There's a shop in the other corner. Ooh, so if I go down here, let's go left a little bit, avoid this, Now the other player, the computer controlled player on the left, is active like a real player would be, so I can buy that better gun and leave the shop. Now I stand more of a chance of killing things, getting more gold. Now with the original rotary stick, if you rotated the stick 180 degrees, you would end up facing the opposite direction. It'd just take a little while to catch up with it, and it'd be nice and simple. Now I think there's somebody back there, isn't there? Yeah, so there's somebody back there. I can kill them. I can steal their key. If they've got one. They do have one. So now the map appears in the top corner. And if I can get to the exit, which is the red bit, without getting killed. Oh, don't get squashed by a boulder. Now this did get a port to the FM Towns of all things. Was it FM Towns? It was the FM Towns. One of the Japanese consoles. Hey Lee Tilanas, thank you for joining. Hey Christian, thank you for joining. And hey MAME fan, of course, thank you for joining. Yeah, it's better than Spy Hunter 2. I mean, it does feel a bit dated. That you know, in 1989, the battle arena thing like this wasn't really a genre. So if you were playing this with 7 other people on a linked-up cabinet unit, it'd likely be something special. There weren't many people playing multiplayer battle arenas, in 3D, and it's not real 3D. It is, of course, one of the Sega scalar units, but it's effectively a 3D shooter. Before this type of genre was really popular. I mean, you can look how popular things like Call of Duty are these days, but at the time this wasn't a genre anybody really knew or played. But yeah, the internet here tends to be a bit expensive for not always the best service, like so many things in this country. I'm going to die if I'm not careful. I should probably collect a better gun before trying to shoot somebody with my pea shooter. Oh, I've got a key. Can I go to the shop? Can I afford that one? Nope. Can I afford anything? I can afford that one. Oh dear. So you are meant to be going around, getting gold by killing other things. So just the slightest mouse movement to rotate yourself works. This one obviously isn't in the list because of the custom controls. It is one that even with a PC is quite hard to get controls that feel right. And there we go, I've managed to lose all my lives, but I can continue a little bit. Get another key. Ooh. I'm moving it too fast to rotate too far, unfortunately. As I mentioned, it can be quite tricky. Ooh, you've got lots of keys. Yes, I do want them. But it's an effective rendering of a 3D environment using sprites. Yeah, it's not cheap, is it, Carlo? And they keep putting the prices up all the time. Unless you threaten to leave, then they'll try and give you a discount, and then they'll put it up again later. And dear, it's like threatening to leave is a part of having the internet in this country, just so you can keep some sort of reasonable price. Even then, it's not that reasonable. Especially considering how much you need the internet for these days. And you need a reliable connection, everybody working from home and everything. But, so yeah, I'm guessing a lot of people won't have played this one, or will have tried and not quite worked out how you play it, or been put off by the controls. And I think maybe if the link was emulated, a few more people would have tried it linked up. But, a lot of link things aren't emulated with the link hardware and MAME. Again, this is 1989. So, you can't tell me there were many more games like this around in 89. It's not the only sort of first-person or third-person arcade shooter. I'll probably have a look at another one in the stream as well from a few years later, which again might be one people haven't played. Yeah, it's about getting the keys and getting to the exit, and the more other things you shoot, the more gold you get. That's 100 gold for that thing. and then you get better weapons from the shop, which is kind of important, because otherwise you're going to get people, look, everybody ganging up on me there. Look at them. I think it can link 4 cabinets for 2 players per cabinet, because if you look down the middle of the screen, there's 8 different players, and I think all of those players can be human. I don't know if there's any missing boards that need dumping for multiplayer, or if it just works with the what is dumped already. Yeah, it's been a long time now, but at the time this was one of the rarest Sega games that hadn't been dumped along with Bullet. One that cost a fair bit to pick up, and you know, we'd only seen screenshots in magazines. I can only imagine how rare it must have been to see a linked setup back in the day, because the board is so rare now. There can't have been many of them around. It's not like Daytona where, you know, it was everywhere and you had massive link cabinets. I've actually got plenty of gold now if I go to the shop. So, I don't know. I've got to get to the shop. That's map. Where's the shop? Well, the map would tell me where the shop is. Where's the shop map? Oh, it's in the other corner. Okay. I turn around. Oh, now, yeah. Just precisely turning around is a bit of a problem. Shop's down here. Nope, don't shoot me. Oh dear. Game over again. Yeah, I'm surprised Sailor Sat hasn't done anything with this one. Unless she has and I've not realised. Now you see, I can probably afford the better gun this time. Yeah, I can afford the better gun. So now I have a shooty gun that has a big fireball. Look, takes somebody out in 2 shots. Oh, you're coming to attack me, are you? There, yeah, because I've got the key. It doesn't take you out in 2 shots, so you must have had more energy. And when you've got the keys, it does show you a little mini map in the top corner there where the exit is, rather than you having to go to the map post. Yeah, Aaron fixed the Shinobi sound bug last night, and the Twinkle Star Sprites issue that had been introduced. Anyway, this is Last Survivor. You know, you've had about 10 minutes of this one in the rebooted stream, so I shall probably move on now, and just keep in mind that I've streamed for longer than the 13 minutes it's telling me I've streamed for, because there was like a good 40 minutes of stream before this, which is now, well, it's not been lost, it's just going to get split into 2 parts on YouTube unless I manually download the videos and join them together, and effort. But yeah, Last Survivor is worth a look. You won't be able to put it on a standard cabinet with joystick and button inputs, because the rotation is, you know, the rotary stick thing is really tricky to use even with a mouse. It wouldn't map properly to standard controls. But if you're on a PC and you can get used to the really subtle movements you need, or have a rotary stick, then yeah, I'd say that one was worth trying out. Now, I'm not going to play the next one. I'm just going to load it up and point out that it really should be in the mature part of the CatVer file. This is Canvas Croquis from SNK, and it's a game. It's very loud, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. It's a game where you are uncovering pictures. Now, what happens in most games where you're uncovering pictures? The pictures become less clothed with each round. What happens in this game? The pictures become less clothed with each round. So, yeah. This is definitely a mature game. This is in the wrong part of the CatVer file. If you put this on your cabinet and expect it to be a nice family-friendly game, you're wrong. It's sort of Gauss Panic level of uncover picture and progression. There's no switch to turn off the nudity either. So yeah, this is in the wrong part of the CatVer file, which is a shame because I did kind of want to feature it, but you know, I can't feature it because then YouTube will be disconnecting me for different reasons. So there we go. That was just a brief discussion on that. I don't know anything about the linking features of the Namco Games cow. I think a lot of them use the same chips for linking, and I think Galaxian 3 needs those chips emulated to even link together the boards that make up the system, so it'll need doing at some point, but I don't personally know anything about them, unfortunately. Right, where should I go now? Okay, let's have a look at Sky Army, and this is not the alternative to Virgin Media. This is a 1982 game from Shoei. Yeah, that's Phil Bennett's brother, I believe, Mo, although he's not submitted anything for it, so I don't know if anything's going to come from that. Now, this is a game where you've got helicopters trying to build bridges, and it's one where for many years it didn't work properly in MAME, and it turned out to be because there was a bad bit in the ROM. But now it is playable, so let's play it. Kill helicopters. Bridge completion causes your death. So you don't let them complete the bridge, basically. Because if they complete the bridge, you lose. I don't have the link, but I think it's fairly easy to find. They were looking at driver's eyes too. Go to your ace. Oh dear, I got shot down. You've got a very fast bomb as well, yeah. That seems to be a gravity-defyingly fast bomb. Goodbye, Yellow Submarine. You found it. Alright, Cal. You might be able to post a link in the chat. I don't know if YouTube will censor links to other YouTube videos. So yeah, if you played this one years ago, you would have probably found it starts glitching out with the helicopters trying to drop bridge pieces in places where there isn't even a bridge, and eventually just locks up. That was because there was a bad bit in the ROM. But now that doesn't happen, so it is fully playable. Unless you're trying to use the old ROM, in which case it's not going to work. But MAME will tell you that the ROM is wrong. Now, we don't think there are any other bad bits in the ROM, but there could be, since, you know, if the ROM's going bad, then something else could be wrong with it. And here we go, another bridge section. Now in yours, construct bridge. So basically, you're the ones constructing the bridge now, and you've got to defend the helicopter from other attackers. Two projectors and working light styles. Is that the like the full scale one? Now this looks more like pub end than rub end, but unless that's also a bad dump, but I don't know. So, yes. Don't crash into things. Oh, come on. I'm doing really badly at this. Why did I do that? Sound the bridge on the River Kwai. I don't know. I'll turn the sound up a bit because I think it's quite low. To continue, insert coin and press start button within 10 seconds. So actually, how does this work? I can't even remember how this section works. I know this is the section where you're building the bridge, or your helicopter's building the bridge. I think you just defend them until the point they can put the bridge down. From memory. Colonel Bogey March. Okay. So what do I do? Don't do that. I've forgotten how you play this section. This is a section that was bugged before, but does work now. But I've forgotten actually how you play it. So. Is it just a case of blasting until you can put it out? Okay, I've completely forgotten strategy here. Oh, it's still broken in ways I've forgotten it's broken. There we go. It's actually let me take the bit of bridge now. So I think it's just a case of getting in the right position. Yeah, you get in the right. If you have to get in the right position, that's it. It's very finicky about where you are, unfortunately. There we go. Right position there. Right position there. So it's not the most perfectly programmed game in the world. This is why I was getting confused, but it does work now. You can't shoot your own helicopter. There we go. Once you work it out, it's fine. You've got to just get your positioning right. So there we go. Let's get this one and get it down here. Yep, you build the bridge. No, games with bridges are the best games. Ask any Amstrad CPC fan. Ah, no. So one piece of the bridge remains. Let's get that piece too. Hey Santar, thank you for joining. How you doing? You finally know the name of the song after so many years. I'm always glad when people in the chat are helpful like that. Cows can't fit in a car. They might fit in a convertible. Or one where you've just taken the top off. Or maybe just a very small cow. I don't know. Yeah, I heard that Blackpool had a Ridge Racer full scale, which is the one. Unfortunately, the problem with Ridge Racer full scale is the graphics ROMs aren't all dumped on it either, which is why in the video you see a lot of the textures are corrupt, because it's meant to use different ROMs for pretty much everything, and it doesn't. So, yeah, here we are, stopping the bridge being built. But before, I think this would fly in and try and drop the piece on the exact right-hand side of the screen as well, sometimes. Maybe that was the bug, actually. Maybe it wasn't your build. I know there was a problem with dropping the bridge in the wrong place and breaking the game. I think it was actually the ones that fly in from the right, now I think about it. But yeah, it doesn't do that anymore. They fly in from the right and drop it in the correct place. If they drop it at all. Now, I don't know why the whole game takes place at night, but I guess it's better than having a bright blue background, isn't it? Oh, you're not building the bridge. Now we go to our base. The game, once you get used to it, it's okay, but yeah, things do fire very quickly. And if you're not concentrating fully, you're going to get killed. I don't think it's too difficult. I think I just forgotten how to play it, and yeah, you have to be careful where you position yourself, because you don't move that quickly. That's a bit unkind, actually, the lightning cloud. You know. But yeah. I'll give this another credit. It just keeps doing the same thing over and over now, really. You get them building the bridge, this section, then you building the bridge, and then, yeah, repeat. But it's a very rare game. I mean, the reason we ended up having to, well, Olivia ended up having to fix the ROM manually is because we've only seen one board of this game ever. And that had the bad ROM on it. And unfortunately, when ROMs, you know, start to rot, they don't get any better with subsequent reads. So another board is really needed at some point to verify it. But what can you do when a game is that rare? Apparently you can shoot lightning out of the sky. Well, that's what it looked like happened. It only has one ball. Oh. Anyway. Sky Army. Now that it's fixed, I think actually this one would be worth putting on a list of games to play in MAME. Because, again, there's no other game quite like it where you've got the three different phases, where the first phase is defend, then you've got the shoot 'em up stage, and then you've got the sort of you're building the bridge stage. The you building the bridge stage is probably the most difficult one to understand because the positioning required is so precise on it. You need to be in exactly the right place. But like, say, Super Locomotive yesterday, it's a game where you're going to get an experience you're not going to get with playing some other just random Space Invaders game. So, yeah, Sky Army, Shoei, 82, is a good game. Yeah, when good ROMs go bad. Oh dear. Unfortunately, it happens far too often. It's just, when it happens on a common game, you know, you've always got another copy to use as a reference. When it happens on something that's where you've only seen one of them in over 20 years, it's a much bigger problem. And unfortunately, that was the case there. Hey T-Dog, thank you for joining. Good to see you. MAME, seems I'm needed on Zypho's Discord. Hold on. I don't know. I'll reply to that later. It's about track and field. Track and field, I don't think I can play. Track and field is probably on the list, isn't it? Yeah, track and field is unfortunately already on the no-kill list, so I can't bug fix that one live on stream. We'll have a look at that. Yeah, it says something like high score data. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It might be a case of something needs resetting to defaults once you've booted the game. I'll have to look at another point. But it's not really one I can debug on stream. Right. What shall I do now? Let's play a shooter. Let's play GunNail. Right, so NMK Tecmo shooter, GunNail. A prototype of this was done recently, actually, which is quite an interesting one to look at beyond this version. But this is a good little shooter from NMK. Has anybody played GunNail? It's one of those NMK shooters that's got actually quite an annoying scoring mechanic. But we'll talk about that shortly. Other than that, it's a very good looking shooter. Now you see you've got shield in the bottom corner rather than lives. They really just act as your lives. If you get hit, you lose a shield. There you go, you see I've lost a shield. And if I get hit again, I lose a shield again. Now I've only got one shield left. If I get hit again, I now have no shield left, and there's a warning siren playing. Now the issue with the scoring in this game is you get the most points when your shield is empty like this, so when you're basically on your last life. But that means if you want to go for a high score in this game, you have to play the entire game with that siren going off. Now I'm sure you can see the flaw in the design there. Let's just kill myself so I don't have to listen to that siren all the time. Because I am not going for score. But yeah. Now this is one of those that's got the NMK 004 sound system, so probably a good 5 years ago, maybe more, that it was emulated, but for a long time this had no sound in MAME. And the sound was added a lot. Look at this giant sort of face, skull-like shit design here. It's like it's got eyes and a mouth and nose, and then it's got another layer built on top of it. I like that design. But yeah, the prototype's got different level layouts, different level ordering, different level structures, so it is worth checking out as well. But neither version is in the list from what I could see. And this is, I think, one of the better looking NMK shooters. Just look at the weaponry here, the circles, the red circles that are going up to the orange circles, big orange circles near the top. A lot of effects. If you use your bomb, you get a little wavy line scroll effect. The power-ups are look very much like, well, the medal things look very much like the ones in Thunder Dragon. So I'm guessing some of the same artists, Thunder Dragon 2 rather, so I'm guessing some of the same artists were involved. Almost got your honeycomb patterns there, not quite, but almost. Colourful bullets. Yeah, Battle Valley on the C64, I think I've seen screenshots of that, Carlo, yes. And as with most shooters, I will be credit feeding my way through it. Apparently there have been some drop frames again since I've restarted, but it's not been enough to drop the stream out. But yeah, Virgin's been really bad tonight, unfortunately. There is not much I can do about that, so if it starts going wrong again and dropping too many frames, I'll probably end up having to call the stream just on the basis that I can't stream when Virgin are being terrible. I wonder if Zypho's going to have the same problem with marbles, or if he's going to be a bit luckier. Again, a creative boss, a very round boss. How often do you see very round bosses? Fast spinning. I think the visuals stand out here as being different to any other game I've played, which is probably why I quite often come to this one to play it. And this one would be on any top list of mine. And it plays well too, it's fast, it's smooth. Unless effects like that are going to be dropping stream. Yeah, Neutrino, it's an amazing looking game. It's, I mean, not all NMK games look fantastic. Yeah, usually, you know, Terraplan games look better, but this one is, it does the business with the visuals. Like all the explosions look fantastic. And again, kind of creative in the style. Some of the flower-like explosions, you know, the almost kaleidoscope patterns. Not something you will see. Look, this trail behind the ship there, all colourful. Now, I'm not good at this, as you'd expect. But that's not going to detract from the visual aspect of it. And it looks really good with the CRT shader as well, because you get an extra little bit of glow on things, and the persistence really helps. Oh dear. Well, I can pretend I did that on purpose to stop the siren. But yeah, this is one I added to MAME back in the day, when I was playing the NMK driver. I didn't write the NMK driver, although I did contribute a fair bit to it, and some significant refactors to it over the years. And this game has definitely benefited from those. Time up. Yeah, you have a time limit on some of the bosses. And if you don't kill them, you run out of time. But now we're back to Siren because I've got no shields. Now Trap 15 did do a hack ROM set for if you've got the PCB to turn off the Siren when you've got no shields, because I think in one of his competitions he did a scoring run on this one, and naturally if people are doing scoring runs on it, they're going to be losing all their lives and have to listen to the Siren otherwise. So for the benefit of his own little competition, he did create a hack ROM set. The hack ROM set isn't in MAME. I'm thinking maybe it should be, because people did put it on the PCBs, knowing how irritating that sound effect is otherwise. There we go then. So, I don't know. It's one of those things that just nobody's got around to adding, I guess. And not every hack can get added, but when they say they have significant uses and people have been using them for competition, it kind of makes sense, because those PCBs are going to get sold one day. Somebody will buy them, somebody will dump that ROM, somebody won't identify that ROM, somebody will think maybe it's another revision. And if we add it now and document it now as sort of, the hack that was made specifically for that purpose, that's not going to be a problem 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when a PCB shows up and nobody remembers why that change exists or who made that change. You get that a lot, don't you, Carlo? I mean, with arcade games, they want to have it all looking flashy at the start and encourage you to put more money in, but they know by the time you know the end, you're going to credit feed it just to get the ending, if there's an ending, regardless of the effort they're putting in. So they sort of blow their load very early, a lot of them. Not just Saint Dragon, it's very common. So many games, the final levels are just recycled assets the whole way through, and it's a shame, but financial decision. But yeah, I'll play a little bit more of this one. Maybe another credit. I'll beat this boss at least. Probably with bombs. Because, she's the boss. What's that explosion on the boss? Yes. Now, I do wish that maybe they'd done a sequel to this, but again, they didn't. I think they could have maybe done like a really good version of something like the Mega System 32 platform, like we got P47 Aces on there. But yeah, that's stage 4. Okay. The version you have has autofire. Maybe there's a config switch. Anyway, that was GunNail, and if I just put on briefly the prototype. Got this intro screen that's not on the other version, but there we go. Now calling it up. Now you see instantly this stage is actually more like the final stage where I just quit on the, well, stage 4 where I just quit on the other set. But that's the first stage on this set. But this is, yeah, so it's a very different prototype. There's lots and lots of changes throughout the levels. There's an entire level missing. It's kind of in the ROM if you hack the thing to trigger it. It's sort of there, but massively incomplete. And this was dumped, I think, the very start of last year, or the end of the year before. And it's one worth checking out if you enjoy GunNail and want to see some of the stages in a slightly different light and in a different order. Definitely take a look at this prototype, a location test version. It offers just about enough to be worth playing if you know the original game for the final game. Yeah, the colour scheme's lovely, isn't it, in view? And so much little bits of animation in the background. Obviously when you use your bomb there, it ruins the whole rose scroll effect, because the rose scroll effect is also using line scroll, but, it doesn't really detract from the game. There we go. Fake zoom. This is the prototype, and yeah. GunNail. I think I prefer the final version over the prototype, or at least the final version shows off a more interesting stage first. This isn't the most interesting stage, to be fair, so it's kind of surprising it comes first in the prototype, but if they were location testing it, and maybe the specific location test was they wanted to find out how players did at this level, so they put this level first. You know, if you're location testing a game, you'll do things like that. If you want specific feedback on a specific stage, you might put it first as opposed to later in the game. Good sense of firepower on this one too. I mean, look how full of my bullets the screen is. It's a bit of an illusion, but plenty of bullets going on there. Anyway, that was GunNail. I don't think I need to say much more about GunNail, really. I mean, you can tell it's a quality game just from what I've shown. So, yeah, do check it out. I think it's absolutely worth checking out. It should have been in any top list, in my opinion. But now, where do we go now? Yes, let's go there. Let's go there. Hyper Crash, 1987, Konami. Nemesis hardware. Now, one of the first things to note with this, it could be installed in a WEC Le Mans 24 cabinet or a Konami GT cabinet. It's got a dip switch for the two. Guardian Foot, that's the Saturn hardware STV one that's got very laggy controls, isn't it? I think intentionally laggy controls on that, actually, because it's meant to be like a tank and difficult to control. The first thing I think about with this game, or comes, you know, this came after WEC Le Mans. I mean, WEC Le Mans looks far more modern than this thing, but Konami offered the option to convert WEC Le Mans cabinets to this. The only good use of road scroll, line scroll you remember was Willow once you got to the time-lapse weapon. There's lots of other good uses of it, Carlo. I mean, even in Capcom games, the Darkstalkers level where you're on the side of a building is fantastic use of road scroll, line scroll. But yeah, Konami's Hyper Crash. Bit speech. Flip over and jump onto things button. But yeah, if you ask me when this came out, I would have easily said, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years before WEC Le Mans, but no, it's 2 or 3 years after WEC Le Mans. Pardon me. About 2 years after WEC Le Mans. It's like basically an into the screen bump and jump type game. With quite a lot of slowdown. So I don't think it plays too badly, and you get loads of points for doing the big, you know, pushing 3 cars at once like that. Yeah, it's probably a lot of fun, but it looks ugly. I mean, you've got pixel doubled sprites, you've got cars that look like some cross between digitised and hand-drawn graphics with no real detail to them. It's not a pretty game, so it must be relying on the fun factor. Again, this wouldn't be on the list based on controls alone. But it probably wouldn't be on the list anyway because it really doesn't look that good. But if you're going on fun and playability, yeah, it's actually a fun game. You know, wrecking other cars is always an enjoyable mechanic, regardless of the game. So smashing them off the side, seeing the tyres fly off, they almost look like they're turning into skeletons. It is satisfying. You got your little jump. Ooh. And group the cars together for big points. Just technologically, it looks years older than it really is. Yeah, I just don't know why they made it so ugly. So I mean, it's a bit like when you look at Riding Hero and Neo Geo and you go, this came out how many years after Hang On? Or what were SNK thinking? And in this case, it's a Konami game against another Konami game. So, and it was available as an upgrade for the other Konami game. So if people were bored of WEC Le Mans, then yeah. Oop. Don't get many points just for a single car, unfortunately. Right on. Group you together. Oh, straight to a battle. But yeah, I mean, they obviously looked at bump and jump and games like that. I don't know. I think bump and jump is probably a better game. There's a lot of slowdown here. Look, as soon as like there's this many cars, you're running at half frame rate too. And unless the clocks and the driver are wrong, that's just going to be how it is, because the 68k timings are well understood. The whole section where it's slow because there's so many cars on the screen. Anyway, so I don't want to spend too long on this one. Oh, game over. I don't think it's unfinished because there's 2 different revisions and it seems to be a well-known game and it's well advertised. And people do say they played it back in the day, so I don't think it's an unfinished game. Don't remember how to enter initials, but... Sir. Maybe the progress map was drawn earlier but at a different time. In terms of art, it does feel like it's kind of still preliminary art that just ended up in the game. You see some, if you look at like how some games develop, the prototype fighting game art, where it's more like outlines that are meant to be filled in later, it does have that kind of look to it. But maybe it's just like, we've got no budget left for this, let's put it out and call it a day. I don't know. I wasn't there at Konami at the time, I can't tell you. It's fun enough to hold up as a, you know, a bit of a distraction. It's just not the best game otherwise. Shall we go from Konami to Konami? That doesn't seem like the worst idea in the world. Let me just check if it's on the list. It's not on that list. It is on that list. Konami's Fastlane from 1987. Oh, vertical. So, more Konami driving action from 87.
Presented by Konami.
A bit loud this one actually. So what's this one like? Well, let's put in a coin and find out. Nice rainbow high score table here. Love Vince. I think this is the only game I can think of that says presented by Konami with speech at the start. But this is more of an overhead, head-on style game. So yeah. It's got the Gradius style power-up system at the top, you can see already. Shoot, so Ferrari GTO. Yes, it's very head-on like. The cutscenes, because why not? You are clearing off the mud, so you're cleaning the road? And you're running over people to get power-ups? I mean, I don't know what world we live in where you run over people to get power-ups, but apparently that's what you do here. You love the splashback effect. Yeah, that's quite a nice effect. I think it's a bit over the top when you get the cutscenes for each power-up you use, but there we go, on attack now. I don't know why you're basically mowing the grass with cars and running over people to get power-ups. Logically, nothing about this game makes the slightest bit of sense. But attack straight into you and blow up. Yeah. Oh dear, I didn't have a power-up. Start the stage again. So I run over you and I get that power-up. Oh, shoot, yeah. That was a bit last minute. Get to the outer lane. Again, I don't think many people are going to have played this one. Head-On itself doesn't seem to be the most popular of games these days. So when you've got Head-On by a company that isn't Sega and it's just a clone of Head-On but more over the top, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty good fun. It surprises me it's a Konami game. And they've sort of tried to fit the Gradius power-up system into it. Also, oh dear, I've got no power-up. Boom. So I think it's a bit more zoomed in here, isn't it? Which means you've got less space to work with. No. Oh dear. I haven't covered Hot Rod by Sega yet, no, in due. That is one that I could look at one of these days. Because again, that won't be in the list owing to the controls it uses. Shoot. Right, can I clear it without shooting? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it, Bob? That's what I'm saying. You're running people over roller skating babes to get your powers. And now this level is clearly the rolling crash type layout. So, you know, the level layouts aren't exactly original. It does have a bit of depth to it. You go over the bridges. We can clear it fairly easy. Oh, and the car is the car leading trails this time? How do I get to the outer ring? Down here. There we go. You like this one? Yeah, I thought people might like this one. And again, it's not one I ever see people recommending or playing, and it doesn't seem to be on any of the lists I've found. And now we get an even further zoomed out level, another zoomed out level. I think it should maybe have started with the zoomed in level to show you the full graphics at the start. And the zoomed in levels are the more traditional ones. But, you know, Konami didn't always know what stage order they wanted either. You've got plenty of games where the stage order differs between sets. Oh, I don't know if it does in this one. The cutscenes are ridiculous. You would have thought after a while it might stop doing the cutscenes, but no, it seems to want to do the cutscenes for as long as you're playing. Yeah, the animations in pinball tables or bowling RO9. When you get strike and get the animation, this and that. Although in bowling they tend to be a bit more varied. Oh. No. Unnecessary 80s TV-esque exploding enemy cutscenes. That is definitely a good way to describe them. Now, I'm guessing this didn't get ported to anything, but I never know. It could have done. It's a bit tricky the way it makes you restart the whole stage if you die, but that is how some of these games were. So I don't know if this is perfectly emulated or not. It seems to work fine to me. Pardon me. this is definitely a Konami game I don't think many people are aware of. And it probably deserves a bit more recognition than it gets. Oh, look, we've got a change of scene here. Now we're destroying bricks. Line. That power is going around and killing more than just that one because it's going around the maze. In fact, I don't know why I didn't feature this on the maze game stream because this probably counts as a maze. Okay. Boom. I don't think there are any cameos by Mr. T, unfortunately, Bob. And also, hey there, thank you for joining. And hey Mal Manian, also good to see you. Thank you for commenting and joining and being here. The love child of Pac-Man plus Outrun, and also of course Head On. And it's very obviously influenced by Head On, just as much as say Counter Run is. Anyway, why am I on stage number 1? Can you not continue after a certain point, or was I not paying attention? Or did some sort of protection kick in? I was probably just didn't do it right because I was reading the chat, which happens sometimes. But yeah, that was Fastlane by Konami. And it is a good, fun little game that, again, I don't think many people know. I've said that a few times now, but I'll say it again. Definitely check it out if you fancy some Konami classic action. More of a sort of throwback to the earlier 80s, but in 87 with 87's level of graphics. Now, what should I go now? What should I do now? Yeah, let's cover that one. Quick look at another shooter. This is G-Stream G2020 by Oriental Soft Japan. Would later be Triangle Service and the like. So this is sort of the prequel to the likes of Trizeal and that type of game. But, you know, as I said in the previous stream, curiously, it's one of the few games that uses the Hyperstone type hardware, which was quite popular in Korea around this time. And the developers went on to do things of note that are quite well known and well regarded within the the shoot 'em up scene these days. But its roots were here. Now, sound is quite loud again. The sound isn't very good on this, unfortunately. It's basically bootleg style sound hardware, a pair of OKI 6295s, as you got with many of these cheap boards. But it's the gameplay you're looking for. I don't understand all the gameplay systems here. The building up the different colours at the bottom of the pouch you get. I don't know if you're meant to match them up or if it's just a case of that's your overall power structure. I think it's just your overall power structure. So if you've got more red, you get more of the red effect. Yeah, a NES or even a SNES version of Fastlane. Maybe it's a bit too colourful for the NES. But yeah, this is this is a fairly generic shooter really, but it's not a bad one. It plays well. Just sounds terrible. Turn it up a bit now, it's actually been quite quiet. Don't change those things. But as with many of these, you've got short sample loops, you've got low quality samples. But the art's good, yeah, it's got decent art. Decent attack patterns like these. I mean, this is a very fancy looking pattern. So, interesting that the hardware is very similar to that used by the X2222 game. But with the X222 game, all the sprites are, all the graphics are sort of hard-coded RGB, whereas this is palletized. And of course the 222 game was probably never released, so we've got no sound ROMs for it. And the final build we have has got debug stuff enabled, so it's got debug display the whole time. I could still look at X2222 maybe, but it's not the most thrilling one to show on stream. I might look at after this actually, if I remember. So, there we go. Stage clear. It was what the standard was for sound on these cheap boards, SB. I mean, this has got better sound hardware. Most of this has got 2 OKIs, where a lot of these cheap hardware just used a single one. They got put in cabinets with terrible speakers in the first place, so nobody really noticed, and it's how it sort of went. Whereas Taito would spend, you know, half the budget, and Capcom would spend half the budget on the sound. The Korean developers, yeah, it was, well, the Japanese developers, Korean publishers, Korean hardware, Hyperstone hardware, Korean designs. And I think they're actually, I think they are a Japanese developer, aren't they? But it's basically a Korean hardware design, Promat and the like. Yeah, lo-fi ADPCM jams. Very much like you get on random bootleg games. Get to hear the music bit. So it's not a perfect looking game, but there are some nice sprites in it. This background's obviously quite Raiden Fighters, but without the fancy reflection effect on the water. Raiden Fighters? I always call it Raiden Fighters, but some people call it Raiden. I like how Raiden Fighters flows off the tongue. Yeah, as far as games that run on Hyperstone hardware go, though, there aren't many that feel this impressive and original. There are some okay games, but this one stands out. It almost makes all that effort that was put into emulating the Hyperstone CPU and its nightmare architecture, which probably still isn't correctly emulated, because there's definitely timer issues in some games. It makes it feel a little bit more worthwhile. Not one I really contributed to the CPU emulation as such, but I emulated the video hardware for a lot of them, so the video side of this one is what I emulated. Yeah, it's a shame, but you can only preserve it as it existed. I think, as I mentioned in the previous stream, there might be an undumped, more complete version of this game too, because this version seems to lack end credits, and there are videos, or was a video somewhere of a version that had end credits that was on test somewhere. So it's a bit unclear if the version that's dumped is an earlier version or a prototype. Again, it's a very rare game, but the same ROMs have been found on another board, so if it's a prototype, it seems unlikely it's a prototype. It's probably just an earlier version, or the later version never got released, or who knows. But it's not awful, it plays fine, I'm bad at it. You want... Yeah, I'm surprised he's not sent it to, you know, either myself or Phil for looking at it though, Nick. Because it would have been nice, especially to get driver's eyes running. I know when I hooked up the Race Driving Panorama 3-screen one, that was something I quite like to run in MAME every now and again to just test the performance a bit, and it does run at full speed, that one. And I did the groundwork for getting all 3 boards of driver's eyes running at the same time, so it would have been nice personally to see the code and maybe try and work it into something that could be included. Because obviously in cases like that where they only shipped in 3-screen setups, the correct way to emulate them in MAME is to emulate all 3, because MAME emulates a cabinet, and so you have to emulate all the board snacks. Anyway, yeah, G-Stream 2020. Nothing about me streaming on YouTube in 2020, just a game called G-Stream 2020. I die a lot, shoot 'em up. got a bit of a 90s PC game look to it as well. The bullets are going everywhere now. My lives are going down quickly. The sound is getting no better. I don't know, I've never seen the code, so I don't quite know what approach was taken. Maybe it's just too bad. But, you do get sometimes just really bad code that can't be included. So, for example, you know, Primal Rage 2 support that breaks everything apart from Primal Rage 2, so it can never possibly be included. Doing things properly isn't always easy. Yeah, there's a little bit. It's definitely got heavy Raiden Fighters influences. Maybe not so much Dio. I mean, Dio's the mainly known for being the 6-button game. If you've got it in 6-button mode, of course. There aren't many shooters that can use 6 buttons. I think I've shown enough of G-Stream 2020. It's a higher mid-tier shooter that's got a fair bit going for it, just kind of horrible sound, and maybe not the most creative of designs, but I'd definitely say it was worth a play. I'm glad to hear that, Maumanian. Yeah, that's the purpose I'm doing these streams, is just to, you know, highlight things that were missing in some of those lists, highlight things people might not have been aware of, and even in popular genres, there are games that get overlooked. I think that is one of them, although maybe that's one of the better known ones through just the, you know, the sequels. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That's always good. Yeah, I mean, I hope that is not dead and buried, Mo. I mean, he could probably publish it himself as, you know, a little build of his own, and just for people to enjoy it. But maybe he just doesn't want to do that, because sometimes if you write bad code, you can be kind of embarrassed by it and go, I don't want anybody to see it. So that could also be the case. Right, what shall I do now? Just looking down this list, which is still very, very long. Shall we go with more classic? Well, not how was it? Shall we go with more Konami, since we did a bit of Konami before? I think we will. Konami's Battlantis, another 1987 game from Konami. So let's have a look. Now, let's say the Fastlane was 87 as well, wasn't it? A bit loud. So what's this? Well, this is basically Konami does Space Invaders, but again, late 80s style. Much like the other game was Konami does Head On, but late 80s style. So let's give it credit and see how it plays. You even got your little defense shields there, just like Space Invaders. This is Konami not being incredibly original. This is almost Konami wanting Taito to sue them. Oh dear, I died. Yes, another remake. I mean, it's good to see that, you know, fresh takes on old games. You got that boss, don't do that. The shield's going down. But he's obviously throwing firebombs at me that I have to avoid. Bit of zooming going on. Everything's built on something that came before it, yes. Now here we've got a slightly different take. We've got more, almost mole attack, isn't it? Demons popping out of holes. Not going to get to you. Uh-oh, that's not good though, is it? Because if you don't get to him, what happens? Oh. I don't know what you can actually do if you get hit. I mean, there's only the one button, isn't there? Yeah, there's only the one button. Unless there's a button missing. Yes, Strike Force is on my list of potential games, Carl. The sequel to Defender, that isn't it? I feel like there should be a shield button in this game or something I'm missing. It just seems like once they get to the bottom there, I can't do anything about it, and that's not great design. Look, all I can do is run away and then die. Hey Casper, thank you for joining. You were asking about virtual racing the other day, weren't you, Casper? And the bookkeeping, I believe? If so, AGR did just hook that up. In MAME. Again, I can't get to you in time. I'm missing something with this. Doesn't feel like it plays properly to me. Or it's just unfair. Because you can't get to where the enemy is to shoot them. I can't get to that enemy. There's no way I can get to that enemy. Holding the button doesn't do anything. Yeah, I don't like this one. Either there's something wrong with the emulation or this is just a bad game because I'm just here on this stage forever feeling like it's not fair. Yeah, it was what I thought, just some sort of battery back part of memory. It feels that way, but I don't know. Buttons, test mode. It only says shoot one. There's only one button listed there. I don't know. Maybe it's just not a very good game. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. I might have to look at somebody playing this that's better than me at it because once you get to that stage, that wasn't much fun. So that one is a no for me. It starts off like a promising Space Invaders clone and then becomes unplayable. At least if you have to shoot everything very quickly, otherwise they come to the bottom and you die, and it wasn't fun. I did say I'd look at X2222, which has no sound, but this is the other Oriental Soft one. This is where the actual developer of the game ended up sending us some resources to, create the ROM for it. And they sent two versions. They sent this version, they sent a prototype version. They sent the graphics ROMs only for this version. So the prototype version's got the wrong graphics ROM, so there's a lot of enemies that are corrupt in that. And there's this version that unfortunately there's no sound and it's got a debug thing on the screen at all times. But it's not clear if this was ever released. It would be easier with two-player, wouldn't it? I'll have to have a look and see if it's missing anything, but the test mode suggests there's no other buttons. Anyway, this would have been a sequel to, well, not sequel, but a follow-up game from the same developers, I think, as G-Stream. But you can see there's the test display, the numbers on the screen, and it seems to be a bit too quick for its own good as well, and maybe hard to tell what's going on. But the developers of this were not very happy with the working conditions, to the point where if you complete it, there are insults towards Promat and Oriental Soft in the end credits, but with the text to insult them reversed. I did a little article about it, but yes, it does insult the publisher and the working conditions in the end sequence. The actual game, aside from the missing sound and the debug display, does appear to be complete. There's a good set of levels to it. Everything's there, everything works. But the fact that it's using hard-coded RGB graphics also means there's no blending effects and stuff like that. and it can be difficult to see what's going on at times. Obviously being silent never helps the shooter either, but say we literally have no sound ROMs for it, and unless a board, one of the location test boards, if it was released, it might have been released, we don't know. There seems to be some debate over if it ever actually got released or just tested. Then we might get sound ROMs, but so far no boards have shown up, and we've only got these files the developers sent us to run it with. It has a power that allows you to fire sideways. That's bad design if you need that power up, because I didn't see any of those power-ups dropping. Yeah, I think Battlantis might just be one of Konami's not so great games from that little playthrough. I might give it another try at another point, but I reached the point where I wasn't having any fun with it, and so off it went. And for me, it doesn't qualify for a list of best games. This is a shame, because you like to see modern takes on things like Space Invaders. So yeah, this is playable. Once you sort of tune the debug numbers out, and there doesn't seem to be any way to turn them off. There doesn't seem to be any dip switch or configuration in the menus to turn them off. I think they're there all the time because this was a debug build that I've been sent, and they were giving the debug information to the developers. Maybe you could find a cheat to hack them out or something like that, stop them being drawn, a code patch or something, but I'm not really familiar enough with Hyperstone code, and it's a bit hairy to follow because it's all compiled stuff. But yeah, it's a playable game. The thing is, without sound, unless somebody adds their own fake sound to it, it's always going to feel incomplete. Could be a project for somebody if they fancy doing it, but maybe, if in another 10-15 years there's still nothing showing up in terms of sound ROMs or anything, that might happen, because it would start to become more obvious if it ever released or whether any boards left it or not. You found the commit, Casper. Sorry, I missed your initial message there, but yeah, it was AJR, and it's just a case of hooking up a section of the memory as backup RAM so it gets saved out. And so the bookkeeping info should now get saved. But yeah, this had potential. It's got some good art again, and I'm glad we've got something of it preserved rather than it just being screenshots on an unemulated site. It's otherwise it would just probably be one of those lost games, potentially lost forever. I keep forgetting I've got extra weapons and bombs and stuff to use and fire off and charge shots. Yeah, it definitely had potential. I think it was just ended up in development hell, and like I said, the developers were not happy at all. It's got photos of all the developers in the end sequence too. It's quite fancy. Lots of effort was clearly put into it, and colourful bullets. I'm actually doing better than when I first tried to play it when it was first added a few years ago. No slowdown. I mean, I don't know if there'll be any slowdown on real hardware. The Hyperstone timings aren't exactly correct, but it doesn't really seem to push the hardware too much. And of course, Oriental Soft would also do things like Solite Spirits, wouldn't they? 1945 K3, which I think is also eligible for the stream. I'll just have to double check that though. But, yeah, this one I don't play it too long because it's complete silence apart from me talking. But you get the idea. If you want a shooter that's probably never going to have sound, but has something to offer, then it might be one to check out. You can't really put it on a top list like all killer no filler when it's clearly an incomplete game or debug build and there's no sound ROMs, but it's one that you could have a look at otherwise. So yeah, 1941. In fact, let's put Solite Spirits on, which is the earlier build of 1945 K3. SL Spirit. So this is when it still had a Promat copyright from 1999. Possible prototype version, we're not entirely sure. But, let's see, Solite Spirits. So, this version's a bit more basic than the 1945 K3 version. Less on the presentation, music. But we'll see. Mission 1. Save Earth. That's good for Earth Day, isn't it? Save Earth. It does have this fruit machine-like bonus item thing of them all cycling. Different number of points. Got your homing missiles there. Again, it's a very Psikyo-like affair, isn't it? This is on 68K based hardware rather than Hyperstone. And for a long time this was missing the red flashing effect when you were shooting the enemies, because it's a specific bit in the sprite that gets set which just forces it to use a different palette. And since that was emulated on these games, it's actually much more playable because you can see the enemies are taking damage. And before, when you couldn't see the enemies were taking damage, it just felt off. I mean, it's that slight bit of visual feedback you need. It might not seem like a big thing just watching the video, but when the enemies weren't flashing, you just weren't sure you were hitting them. And if you're doing a shooter, you do want to provide that feedback so the players know, yep, you're doing the right thing, it's taking damage. That's a big boss. Better than blowing up the earth, yes. I mean, just try not to do that. Those bullets are a bit fast. Come on, I didn't stand a chance there. So we're an hour and 22 minutes into the rebooted version of the stream. Because, you know, Virgin Media, as I said. So I'll probably go on for 2 hours on this part of the stream. Because I can't remember exactly how long I did the first part for. Although I did only get around to 2 games. But we'll see. Anyway, they say this is the recently dumped Solite Spirits version of the game, which is the earlier version. I will switch over to the other one briefly. Yes, this is the earlier version of 1945K crossover. It's called Solite Spirits, as you see on the screen there. And in fact, if I now switch to 1945K, which is where it's branded by Oriental Soft rather than Promat, but it's still Team Muhaha. This is copyright dated a year later than Solite Spirits. It's got extra planes, at least this version has. Let's be the Tornado. Yeah, it's very much the same game, it's just a slightly later version of it. It's possible Solite Spirits is the original Korean release, or it's possible Solite Spirits is more of a prototype version. It's unclear. I mean, the thing with these Korean boards is they all look like prototype boards. They don't have proper naming systems on ROM labels or anything. This one's not telling me to save Earth, unfortunately. You see the backgrounds are different, but the gameplay is basically the same thing. Yeah, you'll see there are places in this where it still says Solite Spirits 2 between the levels. So they hadn't completely changed the branding. So again, same applies here. This has actually got more slowdown than Solite Spirits. I don't know if they're just pushing it a bit harder or they've made the code less efficient in some way. So, yeah, we'll play through a level or two of this version. But the other version is the more recent dump and much rarer version of the game. And it does have a few changes that might make it worth checking out if you've played this one. It's not going to be revolutionary and different in a way that and makes you forget this version ever existed and just want to play the other one. Like we got with some prototypes. But it's still different. So again, we've got this, obviously, basically, the mechanics are the same. Got a warning before they came in. And here's the same boss. Slightly less fast bullets this time, slightly easier to avoid. Let's just use that attack. That's a very Psikyo attack, isn't it? All the formation flies up on screen, blazing away. And there we go. You have been destroyed. Look, you can see it's still got Solite spirits there between the stages, so they've not rebranded this part. So you can still see it's basically Solite spirits. I don't know why they didn't change that screen actually in a few other places where they've still got Solite spirits listed, but maybe they just didn't think anybody would pick up on the fact it's referring to the game when it had a different title. Yeah, Stormblade is also a very good game. Mass Ninja. I think Stormblade might be on the All Killer list. But yeah, you get the idea of this one. Again, for a low budget shooter, and it's it's a pretty good one. Clearly trying to cash in on the popularity of the Strikers series. A bit cheeky, but when it pulls it off competently, and it does. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's playable, it's enjoyable. Much like, say, Wyvern Wings, which I could also play. Yeah, Stormblade is All Killer. That doesn't surprise me. It's entirely possible I recommended Stormblade for the All Killer one because it, it is one of the ones I really like. And I did, come up with some suggestions for the All Killer list. It's probably why Dommy is on the All Killer list because I don't think anybody else would have suggested that one. But it is one of my favourites. Again, that list did try to incorporate suggestions from everybody. But, there's just so many other games that aren't on it, as you've been seeing on these streams. Anyway, you get the idea. Yeah, this is basically, as RO9 says, it's basically a Strikers fan game. It's developers who really like Strikers and want to do their own take on it. And I think they did a pretty good job. I'm not going to spend too long on it because it is just a Strikers. Outfoxies is almost certainly already on the list. It's a game everybody seems to love these days. So you'll probably see that one if I do a stream where I'm looking at the... Yeah, Outfoxies is already on the list. So you'll see that one if I do a stream of games that are on the list. I think we'll go Prototype. The game. This is absolutely definitely not Superman. Uses a trackball. I'll have to see how it plays without a trackball. So I believe there's a copy of this at Galloping Ghosts. Also, I need to change the orientation. I believe Galloping Ghosts do have a copy of this one, but it's Superman without being Superman. So, blast you. It probably would really benefit from analog controls though. Trying to play it on the keyboard doesn't really help. You're defending the citizens against the other, the other anti-Supermen who are trying to steal them. Super villains. So yeah, this didn't get released. This is a prototype. I guess maybe this isn't. Maybe it's not enough going for it really. Maybe there were some concerns over, you know, the fact that it's basically Superman. But what's going on? I let everybody die. Well, there's some music. So yeah, I was only sort of doing half of what I was meant to be doing there. Yes, the music is a little bit Superman, isn't it, crossover? I'm not sure they would have got away with that had the game been released. Yes, this is very vintage sounds. It's a very Gottlieb sounds. Yes, it's definitely more Superman than Taito Superman. That Superman game is just not much fun. Flying beat 'em up thing. It's more Superman than Superman 64 too. There we go. Nope, no. Shoot that. The round hazards. But if the hazard's going to land on somebody, that's not very fair, is it? Nope, don't steal my last person. There we go. One person left. Flying Shark. Let me check. It looks like Flying Shark is already on the the all killer list, so I won't be playing Flying Shark on the stream. Look, I've only got one citizen left because everybody else died on the previous round, so don't drop those on. No, go away. Luckily, you can't shoot people yourself because that would be a mess. Yeah, if you don't grab them, if they fall from too high, they die. As you see. I will do a stream of the ones that are on the list at some point, YouTube visitor. I might do that at the end of the month, actually, as a sort of wrap-up of things. Although it's a big list, so I don't know. I might have to theme a month around those too, because there's quite a lot of games on the list. But I thought I'd do games that weren't on the list because a lot of people do just filter by that list. So we'll be excluding all the games that I have been featuring. But yeah, this might be a trackball game, but it is playable on keyboard. Maybe the precision will be better with a trackball and you feel more in control. But it is one of those games where you're protecting people and rescuing them. And sometimes it feels a little bit unfair if it's dropping, hazards straight on top of people. I suppose if you shoot the hazard before they land on them, it's still technically not unfair. Is there a written down list? For my list or for the actual all-killer list, Ogre? I mean, there's various links on the Arcade Controls forums, and a batch file in the arcade controls forum that copies the files. The actual links in the main post on the arcade controls forum seem to be broken because they point to the old forum software links. But if you Google All Killer No Filler in the subject, you will find the original page where the games are listed. You tried it with a mouse. Definitely need to try it, but I've been on keyboard, Aaron. I'm not finding it too bad. It probably just loses a little bit. So I think Galloping Ghost Arcade do have a copy of this, so I won't be able to go there because it's a long way from me, but maybe people are in the US, and if it's local to them, or they fancy a very long road trip, they could go. But yeah, I actually think this is a fairly good concept. Once your citizens are gone and they don't seem to respawn between levels, maybe there's a way to get them back on certain levels, but otherwise, when they're gone, the game's over. But it's definitely a very Superman-like Superman game that had no Superman license, but is undeniably Superman. It works. It does what it's meant to do, and I kind of enjoy it. Games about sharks have to be on killer lists by definition. Kind of their thing. Yes, that is true. Although I think some shark games aren't on that list. Although mostly older ones. I don't think Blue Shark's on there. Anyway, Gottlieb's Argus. Yes, there's a catch button, so if there's falling debris you can catch it. I don't know if you can catch the other hazards actually. Maybe you can. Maybe that would make more sense than trying to shoot them. But you can catch the falling debris. You can catch the people if they're being dropped by, you shoot them down and they're being dropped from too high. Yes, I played the Jellicoe Argus on a previous stream. Maumanian. It's another quite good game, although one that is a little difficult to understand what's going on, where you try and pick up things that often kill you because it's maybe a little too colourful. Right, I'm going to play one that is a personal favourite that I have no idea why it's not on the list. Psikyo's Space Bomber, 1998. This is, one of my absolute favourite shooters from Psikyo. I have no idea why this isn't on the list, but that's kind of the point of these streams as well, YouTube visitor. A lot of people aren't going to be, especially people new to MAME. I mean, a lot of the older ones are before my time too, and I'm 40 now, so I can only imagine for people who are 20, even 30, a lot of them they've never seen them. They've only seen what's on like PS2 and the like. But this one is a game where you're picking up the enemies and then using the enemies against the enemies. And yes, it's incredibly dumb in a good way. It's your single screen shooter, but with, Psikyo modern sensibilities and a touch of bullet hell. And some pre-rendered graphics actually look good because the hardware is more than capable of displaying high quality pre-rendered art. So let's coin it up. So see, I can pick that up, I can then use that. And that's how you get the most points, is by using the enemies to kill the enemies, rather than just shooting them directly. So, time your use of the enemies correctly. And there you go. You hold down the fire button to, like a charge shot. If I hold down fire, it charges them and releases them. And you can have a chain of them behind you, so you can build up the ones you want to use and launch more than one at once. There we go. Or you can just shoot if you really want to. And you can crash into things because you're really bad at shooting games if you want. But your actual main shot's quite weak. Even powered up, it's not your strongest shot. There we go. It's also got lovely blending effects like those when things explode. So, random frog. What do? You sing and then you explode. Turtles, I think they're like defensive things, yeah. Look, hide behind the turtle. Well, firing off a frog. So knowing when and where to use each enemy type is important. So I want to build up my shield. I want to fire you off. I want to grab you. I want to grab you. And you keep them between stages. A slightly unfortunate choice of background here, but it was 1998. I'm pretty sure this would have to be changed if the game is to ever get a proper re-release. Because apparently this is now a sensitive subject. Also, I'm really bad at this. Yes, Dragon Blaze is also very good. I mean, all the Psikyo games of this period were very good. Please excuse my awful play. Nice big explosion again. Caution. Strange fighter craft. Very powerful. Stinking aliens, you betrayed us. But why? Also, I think Dragon Blaze was a lot more popular than this one. This is not your traditional shooter, is it? This is more of a throwback to the 80s shooters. And requires a bit more thought. Obviously I'm doing really badly at it. Yeah, look. Launch you off and clear out the whole wave with one enemy there. Failed to do it that time. Got a little hard head. There we go. That's quite a powerful one by the looks of it. Flying pigs. With little pigs to pick up. What do? Oh, they fire laser beams, but only 2 of them, then they vanish. And you can just try and shoot it with traditional shots. As far as Psikyo games, this and Soul Divide are both very different, although I've played this far better in the past. I mean, this is embarrassing. No, didn't even get his laser off before being fired at. Just go with regular shots then. But every single background on this is really well animated and a good composition of effects the hardware can do. You've got all sorts of transparencies going on. So getting this one properly emulated was actually a lot of work, because you've got so many different stages using different effects layered up to produce the look you see with the clouds and the animation. It's lots of video banks being changed and for the timeout bases, and yeah, it's good use of the hardware, even though it's a single screen game that's not really scrolling. No, I don't think I played this far on the user stream. Oh no, I didn't play this. I played this on another stream, but I don't know if it's the user stream. You see here, you've got the enemy behind the clouds when it was coming in there. So you can see the actual cloudy, foggy layer of this is separate to the background layer of the, the forest and cliffs. I think this is just another shield one more. Oop. Got caught by the attack. Yeah, I mean, again, I've not played this for ages, so I'm playing it really badly. I've forgotten all the patterns. I've forgotten when to use the different enemies. It holds up really well. Get a shield. Let's get a shield there too. And let's, despite having a shield, still die. Now, there's an A version and a B version of this. The A version is kind of incomplete and quite buggy, so I guess it was quickly replaced by the B version in the arcades. Yes, I worked on quite a bit the Psikyo SH platform emulation in GU. I mean, it was a time when there wasn't really much SH2 based emulated as well, so the Psikyo SH2 emulation actually resulted in a lot of bug fixes to the SH core. Things in delay slots weren't executing as they were meant to. The multiplication unit wasn't working as it was meant to. They're all quite extensively used by these games. So at the time, it was kind of ahead of its time. Because most of what we were doing at the time was more 68K emulation. And more common platforms. But, you know, there were of course some obscure ones in there. But I don't know if there was anything else running using the SH2 in MAME at the time. We might have started work a bit on the STV around the same time. Although that was much trickier. The only STV game I got running was Handing Me Columns, which doesn't really use the STV hardware that well. But yeah, it's definitely one of the ones I have fonder memories of. Paul Priest helped a lot too with some of the visual effects and figuring out just what unusual things the hardware is capable of from a visual point of view. Yeah, it was fun getting it working. This and Strikers, 1945-2 especially, and then later, you know, Gun Barracks, Dragon Blaze, and even that Tetris game we were asked to exclude from MAME for a while because Kira didn't want it in MAME. But that was all a long time ago now. The other Psikyo SH based platform as well, with the dual screen support, was worked on around the same time, but that's mainly Mahjong games and Load Run the Dig Fight. We've got swiping kitties. And there's the bunnies back. Why am I trying to pick up the carrots when I know they're bombs? Oh dear. That's some red pigs. Yeah, Load Runner is slightly different hardware. Load Runner is much simpler hardware, in fact. It supports 2 screens, but it's not got any of the blending support. It's just more or less a plain sprite-based system. So I think that was the cheaper platform, whereas this is the fancy one. So yeah, I'm not going to play too much more of this game because you get the idea. You pick things up, you use them against the other things on the screen. You're meant to really know when to use the different ones. You've got lots of very good looking backgrounds. It's a solid game. Just requires you to learn what you're meant to do. And it's got a good sense of humour as well. The whole sort of president, I think it's a Clinton rip-off, isn't it? But yeah, no, I don't want to continue. Yeah, I think the story's not translated in the A version as well as something I can't quite remember. But you, my friend, give me Earth. There you go. It's Earth Day. Give me Earth. Space Bomber, Scramble. Got your little stretch effect there. That huge bird fawn in the gown looks quite similar to Xevious. I've not made that connection myself. I'll have to study that at some point. But yeah, definitely give Space Bomber a try if you've not played it. I have looked at it on a previous stream, but always worth a second look, this one, I feel. And giant trash cans in front of smoking towers. Yeah. Go-to star. Yeah, go-to star is one of those that gets used in memes and things I've seen before, haven't I? I'm sure I have. But yes. You dogs, you bones. So it's pre-rendered, but it looks good. If you get your perfect combo, you get massive points like that. You know, you kill them all at once using one of the other enemies, and that's how you get your bonuses. Yeah, Zero Wing is all. Even the arcade Zero Wing is not actually that good. It's a game that is more famous for the Mega Drive version, but people now play the arcade versions as well. I think that is Zero Team, the one that's got Zero Wing, the one that's got annoying flashing too when you shoot something. Was that just Hellfire? I can't remember now. Although that is a game that is eligible for the list, is the one I just accidentally mentioned. Eligible for my list is Zero Team 2K. Now I'm playing the 2K version because it's got simplified protection and actually works properly. The original releases of Zero Team, pardon me, use the Seibu cop protection, and it's close. I'd say it's about 90% correct for Zero Team. but there are still issues. And Zero Team 2000 has the correct level order, whereas New Zero Team, which also uses the updated hardware, messes the level order completely. So if you want to play a version of Zero Team in MAME, I would recommend this version as the one that's best emulated. Now, I did see that Zero Team itself had been re-released recently, and they've re-released the original version, not the 2000 version. So I don't know if they've worked on the emulation themselves to improve the issues with it, or if that's just going to have the bugs that are associated with the game in MAME. I haven't played the re-released version, modern one. But this is a decent little fighter, with quite small sprites, but they're well animated. Got lots of debut flying around, and you know, while Seibu are mostly known for the shooters, and I'd say this was a good one. It's not got your standard double tap to run, which can be a bit off-putting. But you've got plenty to pick up, plenty to throw around. Now you've got foregrounds, backgrounds, multiple layers. You've got your power-ups. Yeah, the original release seems to be in the PS4 store. I don't know if it's actually emulated properly or not, or if they've just gone, oh, it's good enough. Because we've definitely not got it completely fixed in MAME. There are some situations where enemies will fly to the wrong points on the screen and things like that, which, you know, I've not got it on the PS4, so I don't know if it suffers from those issues, but it's not perfect in MAME, the original version. And considering what we've just seen with Contra, where it looks like none of the re-release versions are perfect. Look, you've got a little mouse going across the floor there. Nice little touches like that. Extras that, you know, didn't need to be there, but are there and add to the game. Look, there you go, mouse. Or rat, or whatever you are. Yeah, I think the original version does still have a few collision detection and movement issues. I mean, the protection is being used for everything from collision detection to how the enemies move. This 2000 version uses the COP3 instead, which has far less math operations and doesn't do a lot of the other things the COP2 version does in terms of protection. So this was much easier to emulate and much easier to be confident the emulation is correct on. I don't know why they decided to go for reduced, cheaper protection. Maybe they just forgot how it worked themselves or lost information. But yeah, quite lucky the re-release version exists, because it's quite a heavily protected one. Again, not as heavily protected as, say, Cup Soccer, where the only working version is Goal 92 bootleg, which is really, really bad and gets most of the protection wrong. But yeah, Seibu did like to use their protection quite heavily for these games. I know for commercial releases the standards seem to be quite low, so it wouldn't surprise me if they've shipped a slightly broken version. Mr. T's 18 fan is there too. I wonder where Mr. T's hiding then. Again, I like the way there's so much debris on these things, you know, bits flying off everywhere. You've lost your helmet. I'm going to use your helmet as a weapon against you. I like small and well animated sprites. There we've got another bit of the suit that's come off, which you can also use as a weapon. And there we go. Look at that nice explosion. And I don't know why toilet rolls are a power-up. I mean, the whole sort of pandemic and toilet rolls, panic buying hadn't happened at this point, but apparently toilet rolls are something you get from enemies. Yeah, I mean, we're pretty sure it's some sort of gate array. I do wonder what the next step in emulation of it is, if somebody can extract the code from it and possibly study it, decap it. And decapping is not going to give you standard code to run like it's an MCU. But we saw with the Contra one, with Furtek decapping that, they could work out some of the logic from it. And maybe that's the next step. But I think if it's programmable chip, some way to extract the program is also going to have to be done first, because otherwise you just know it's a sort of gate array, and you might not. That might not tell you much unless you've got the actual code it's being programmed with. I'm not sure. But it's definitely not perfect. Even some games that generally seem to work, like Godzilla, still have a hack to ignore some collisions in some situations because it's putting invalid Z values into the collision and then trying to use them to compare, and it doesn't need them. It's a programmable collision thing as well. It uploads like little macro programs or sequences that get called, and the emulation is still very high level of just, well, if it sends this command, just do this, rather than trying to use those lists of commands that are uploaded. It's good enough to say run Raiden 2 and most of these games, but not perfect and not fully understood. This is definitely pre-pandemic. Oh, hey, John. Yeah, that's all right. I'd just be interested to see it. But if you don't want to show it off yet because you're not happy with it or something like that, that's also absolutely fine. It's one of those things that gets asked about really often, though, because a lot of people are really interested in seeing it. But yeah, real life, real schedules. They're always going to get in the way of emulation projects, and it's something I'm sure Phil will say the same thing about. He's got so much on his plate himself, and a lot of things just get delayed for a long time until there's somebody look at them. But yeah, I was saying I do think things like Galaxian 3 have an absolute ton of those chips as well, just to link up all the boards need probably to even get to boot and display something. It'd be nice to have Galaxian 3 doing something too for when the laser discs do finally get dumped. So it sort of all ties together. But yeah, I mean, take the time you need, and if you want to show off the code you've got for people to have a play with, do that. If you don't, then that's also fine. It's MAME's been around for what, over 20 years. At any amount of time at the moment it never seems that long relative to how much has already passed. That's why it's so easy to keep putting things off myself. It's like, yeah, I'll look at this the Metal Hawk scaling issue one day. Now this is one of the bosses that apparently has issues in the regular Zero team sets, with the protection not quite right. I think he doesn't jump quite to the post, or snaps into place rather than jumping around properly. Unfortunately, crossover, the guy who had that PCB, I think, encountered legal issues after showing it, and basically, while he wanted to get it dumped, he quickly realised that if he was to try and get it dumped or distributed at all, he'd be in a lot of trouble. So nothing happened with it. So I don't think we'll ever see Kung Fu Master 2 emulated, unfortunately. Because it seems whenever somebody gets the PCB, they like to show it off, and then they get legal threats. And I'm sure if we had a domain, we'd get legal threats. So it's probably not going to happen. The protection was put in by board makers to stop people bootlegging the games back in the day. If you look at Seibu especially, the original Raiden is one of the most heavily bootlegged shooters. It's ridiculous. It's as bad as, it's almost Street Fighter 2 levels of having bootlegs for it. So they wanted something really strong to protect their later games, and including Raiden 2. And so they came up with this cop protection system, which does the job. It's not even a standard MCU with code inside. It's a fully custom programmed gateway, from what you can tell, which makes it especially difficult because you can't just even decap and dump the code and then emulate it as a CPU. It's a difficult case. Yeah, beyond the Kung Fu Cow. Again, anybody who's ever got the PCB and shown videos of it has ended up with legal threats if they've said they want to get it dumped. So, I don't know. And yeah, that includes the French guy, I believe. So yeah, I think on Zero Team 2K this ends up being the first stage, which doesn't make any sense because you arrive in a helicopter after starting on a bike in the first cutscene. The Kung Fu Master 2 is very similar to the original. Just, it's a very natural sequel, really, from the video. But yeah, I'm not optimistic we'll see it. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to show with Zero Team. It's a solid beat 'em up with some great animations, some good humour. To me, it's a little bit like the Metal Slug of beat 'em ups, the first Metal Slug, rather than the sequels. It's a good solid game that obviously Seibu realised was worth re-releasing quite a few times. Does everything you'd expect right. So it's just not got the run thing, which is maybe the only odd thing. You can't double tap to run. You just do that. But yeah, otherwise it does everything right. It plays well. It plays smooth. It plays fair. And the original is up to 4 players. I don't know if you can turn on 4-player mode in 2K. I can't remember. In fact, let's just check. Game settings, cabinet style. Yeah, 4-player. So. You know, you can set this version to 4-player too. So, no. Yeah. I don't know what the other edit point of the map is. There you go. 4 players. If you wanted 4 players. Yeah, the bazooka's good fun. Yes, your previous high scores will be invalid, as it happens. At least it doesn't self-destruct by looking at like the Gallico MCUs. Yes, that is true, RO9. And unfortunately, other places those MCUs were used, which we might not see dumped now because St. Morton passed away and he was kind of critical to getting them dumped. But cancer is like that, isn't it? So, not great. Where shall I go next? I'm on 2 hours now. I'll probably do one more game and then call an end to this stream because there was a first part to this before Virgin decided to go there. Hence why this is 5.2. So let's see what I want to do. Yeah, why isn't this one in the no? I'm just going to dual check this one isn't in the list because this should be in the list. Apparently it's not. Let's go with Taito and Dead Connection, which has joystick and 2 buttons. Taito Film presents. A big city somewhere. Evil powers steals on. I mean, I don't know if there's a prototype version of Magician Lord. What would be different? I mean, there's not one dumped. But why would you be interested in a prototype Magician Lord crossover? So yes, we have a Taito gangster film here, don't we? Very much Untouchables and the like. Let's put in a credit. So, do you want to be Philip, James, Eddie, or Gary? Let's be Eddie. Eddie ready. Hotel Diamond Queen. It doesn't give you any time to read them. You have to hit 30 enemies. So, tiny sprites again. So this is kind of Smash TV like. You know, you're clearing out a room of enemies. You're picking up power-ups. You're blowing everything up. Destroying the scenery. Oops. can go to. Let's destroy the statue. Oh, the chandeliers come down. While it's a different game and doesn't zoom in and out all the time, I also kind of get the feel of Outfoxes just from the... I think it's the destructible environments of this one. Because Outfoxes is one of those games where you can destroy completely all the environment.
You don't want to die.
James equals Kevin Costner. Yes. He does look a bit Kevin Costner. But yeah, a lot of people really like this game, so I was quite surprised it wasn't in the list. That's why I had to double check. Because a lot of people will say, you know, list this as a Taito game they really like. And it's got that belt scroller gun action type thing as well without scrolling. It's a difficult game to actually put in a jump. You are dead. Yeah, I got run over by a car. That tends to kill you. It's not an easy game. There's a lot being fired at you and, from different directions. Probably helps with more than one play. You've got your dive here as well. Look, let's dive and roll. Dive and roll. Dive and roll. Duck and roll? I don't know. Dive and roll. But yeah, it is very much like it's an Untouchables game or something like that, isn't it? Although the Untouchables did get a game on the 8-bits and even the Amiga.
Don't return them alive. Help me. I'll kill you.
So it's probably a game that does work better with more players.
Help me.
I'm still dead. But this is the the last one I'm looking at for today, so I thought I'd just put this one on briefly, show a few stages of it. It's probably one I'll come back to on a future stream as well. It's up to 4 players, I believe. Although you might have to set a dip switch for that. I can't remember. I can't remember actually. Maybe there's a 4-player set, or I'm not sure. The 4-player input is set up. Oh, the first stage is rather different figures and found a new statue. So yeah, I guess the prototype might be interesting, but the chances of finding one is fairly low, I'd say, crossover. And so it might just be a case of that was done early in development and never in any kind of build that was shown to the public. Yeah, when I die on this, I will be ending this one. And ending the stream. You get the idea. Clear each other level of enemies. Gangster style. Dodge things. Everything blowing up. Chairs flying around. Statues disintegrating. I'm surprised the whole building doesn't just collapse. The windows are gone. Kill you. Let's get rid of some more windows just because we can. You stand in the grass. I'll stand in the grass too. Now you can also hide behind things, which is strategic if they don't play you. There we go. The end. That's kind of a good place to finish the stream, really, isn't it? The end. Right. So, just a second. Maybe did the Japanese version support more players? Why are the 4-player buttons mapped if there's not a 4-player mode? I don't know. I've forgotten. Maybe it's in the code. I don't remember. Anyway, oh no, not Eddie. Eddie is dead. Eddie is deady. Yeah, games with small sprites that are well animated do have an appeal, and that is one of them. But anyway, as I said, it's about 2 hours on this stream. It was about 40 minutes or something on the other one before it all fell apart. So I will be ending it there. Thank you, as always, to everybody who's joined. It's been a nice little chat people have been having over in the actual chat, which is what the chat's for. And yeah, some interesting little facts thrown my way, things I wasn't aware of, people naming songs in games. Yeah, so that's always interesting, and it's good to have, you know, people's opinion on things, and really good to hear that, you know, people have been finding new games through this I've been putting together and streams I've been doing. So yeah, all right. So thank you to everybody. I'm not going to scroll through all the names this time because it does take a while these days. But obviously, if you've been here, you've been watching, you've been lurking, you've been taking part in the chat, it's always really appreciated. And I will see you next time. So bye. Take care. The end of the stream. Yes, Master Ninja. The end of the stream.